Hey guys, what's going on? I'm glad to have you guys here for a new video. I know it's crazy. I'm doing a new video as a snowstorm is about to start, basically. We got some snow hitting into my area, and my plan was after church to come home and just start filming, talk about what I want to talk about before the snow came, but the snow decided to come a little earlier than expected. But you know what? Snow, the seasons changing, weather, just the day itself is always a blessing from the Lord. So why not just film in the snow and do something a little different like I talked about in last week's video. So this week I'm kind of not backpedaling, but basically piggybacking is what I wanted to say off of what we talked about last week about doing something new and then just putting, your trust and faith in the Lord to help guide you through the process and through doing those new things. And what I really wanted to highlight on and focus on in particular, which got me thinking this past week about this month of January and about the season of winter, is that this season can really be a depressive season, right? It can cause us to reflect on the things that we hoped for and anticipated for 2024 to come or to happen, let's say, and it didn't, whether that was a new job, whether that was opportunities with specific people in your life, relationships, just better health results, stuff like that, family gatherings, coming together, speaking to people that you haven't spoke to in a while. Maybe even as a Christian yourself, you're watching this video and you felt like in 2024 you had these expectations of God doing something new in your life or setting you up for a specific success that you were expecting, and it didn't really come to fruition. And a lot of these things just cause us to really just grief and sorrow over what hasn't happened. And I think as a Christian myself, and being in this state of mind, being in this emotional state also, and mental state many times, I resonate a lot with somebody like King David. And if you know what I'm referring to, in the Psalms book specifically, there are many passages where King David is basically lamenting in the presence of the Lord. There's a lot of stuff that's going on with him that's causing him to be real, to be honest, and to speak about how he is just processing his grief, right? And it doesn't specifically highlight when exactly in King David's timeline that he is referring to when it comes to his sorrow and his grief that he's, giving to the Lord. But we can kind of infer that it could have been at many different points in the life, whether it was stuff that was going through him losing his child, or when one of his sons was hunting him down, or even when he decided to sleep with Bathsheba, right? Just all these different things that happened over the course of his life, and just suffering the consequences and bearing the weight and the burden of just the sins and just the expectations that he thought would happen and ended up not, right? And what I want to say is that as Christians, as people, sometimes I feel like we can get caught up in wanting to be honest and just really put out there how we feel, because I think also too, just the Western world of Christianity and certain churches kind of make us feel guilty with wanting to be honest and wanting to be 100% with God, right? We feel like if we are telling the truth about how we're feeling about something, or if we are just, basically kind of quote unquote being a child or just complaining, about these things, that is just basically a sign of saying we don't trust God, right? Like we're just, we can't suck it up, we're better than that, right? And while there may be some truth to that, I think ultimately what it shows, rather the opposite, that we trust in God enough to be able to be honest with him, which is what he wants us to be, right? In our seasons of sorrow and our seasons of grief, there are moments of opportunity to be pruned by him, right? So the expectations that didn't happen, a lot of times we end up feeling in grief and sorrow because we set up those things, right? We feel things should go a certain way because this is the work we're putting in. This is what we're doing. We're checking off all the boxes, X, Y, Z, check, 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 so God, where is my blessing, right? And it doesn't happen that way. And I can't speak on behalf of everybody of why those things don't happen the way they do. But what I can say is that in those moments when I was feeling like that, when I was feeling hurt, when I was feeling damaged, when I was feeling confused, when I was feeling burdened, I decided to open up more to God in my frustrations. I decided to lament with God, just like King David. And I came to a realization of why things didn't go the way that they went, right? A lot of times it's control that sets us up for failure. Rather than handing the reins over to God to really move us in the direction that he's called us to, we take that away from him and we set up our own checkpoints. We set up our own destinations. We write it out, kind of like a vision board, right? Like you put all these things and saying, this is going to happen. This is what's going to transpire. I'm going to manifest this and all that. And then the year goes on and these things don't happen, or the opposite happens, right? And it's in those moments, in my experience, where the Lord was teaching me something through each of those failures. And he was able to really have me be in a place where I was in total reliance and allowing reliance on him, dependency on him, and allowing him to take control. Rather than just me sulking and just being in my sorrow the entire way, he allowed me to grieve. He allowed me to be open and honest with him. And then when my time was done feeling that way, he provided the answers that I needed, right? And the answers aren't just those things that I wanted, but rather he gave me clarity and reason as to why things were taking so long, or clarity and reason as to why I didn't get so-and-so, or clarity and reason as to why that relationship didn't work out, or clarity and reason as to why am I still waiting for this blessing that I've been praying on for so many days, months, and years. And I have specific verses that really, I feel, capture just the essence of lamenting, the essence of what God says as we're grieving with him, right? So I wrote it down here. I have a few verses, but the first one that I want to start off with, in Psalm 34, verse 21, which this is from David, he says, "Calamity will surely destroy the wicked, and those who hate the righteous will be punished." In 22, it says, "But the Lord will redeem those who serve him. No one who takes refuge in him will be condemned." The Lord is basically saying, like, take refuge in me when things aren't going well. Come to me. I want to hear your voice. I want you to talk to me like you talk to a best friend, like you talk to a family member when things don't work out well, right? He provides access to us to not just be honest with him, but also be honest with ourselves in what we are going through. Further on in Psalms 38, in verse 8, this is also David, and this is where he really gets into specific details about how he's feeling. "I am exhausted and completely crushed. My groans come from an anguished heart. I am on the verge of collapse, facing constant pain, but I confess my sins. I am deeply sorry for what I have done. Do not abandon me, Lord. Do not stand at distance, my God. Come quickly to help me, O Lord, my Savior." It shows that the Lord is always close to the brokenhearted, as it says in the Bible. He wants us to be completely honest with him because the Lord is always honest with us. One way or another, he always shows the way that's set out for us, and he prepares us to be able to handle those things. God doesn't just only want people to just follow passively, right? Or to just do whatever he says without understanding the reasoning behind it and the purpose behind it. And that's because he calls us to be honest. He wants honest followers and believers. He would rather you be disappointed in him and be disappointed in what's happening here momentarily, just so that way he has more access to your heart, right? The more that we're opening up in our frustrations and in our hearts to him, the more that it gives him access to really just allow us to be cared for by him. And through that, he shows us how he is removing those things, those expectations, those allowances that we ourselves have allowed us to be set up for failure, right? In John 14:27, God says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." The whole purpose of why the Lord allows us to lament and allows us to really just be honest with him and real is so that way he can make room for peace. This is always the case when it comes to Jesus, right? In his time here on earth, he was really close to the brokenhearted. He was really close to the sinner, right? Not because he wanted them to just solely just do whatever he told them, but he wanted to be a real friend, a real father to them. He healed many people. He did miracles. But what was the point of that? It was to give people peace. And even the ones that he didn't heal and whatnot, it was his word that was bringing them that refreshment and that was allowing peace to enter into their hardened hearts and softening their hearts through the way, right? In 2 Corinthians 12 verse 19, it says, "My grace is all you need, for my power is the greatest even when you are weak." In our weaknesses, as uncomfortable as it is where we can gain the most strength from the Lord. And it's where the Lord is most active in, right? Because it's our full surrender to him in many different areas of our lives and many different things that's going on. And that's all that he asks of us, right? Is to relinquish that so we can depend on him rather than depend on our own understandings and our own ways, right? So I say this and want to talk about basically how to handle disappointment with God, because I want people to know that it's okay to feel certain types of way, right? Other than just happiness and joy and just, always being in a good mood, right? Which is obviously those should be things that we should be feeling, knowing that we have such a loving and giving and caring Father. But our other emotions are also valid. He created us as human beings to be able to feel this way, so that way we can always keep coming to him. And it's through our emotions and through our feelings that we grow as people. We become a better understanding person of God and ourselves, and just how to move forward in our lives. As we deal with disappointment, we accept the shortcomings, and we just move forward with letting go of those, expectations and requirements of us, and we just allow God to surprise us, and we allow God to do new things in us, and we just trust that he knows what's best for us more than what we think we could ever think is the best for us, right? And I always keep these things in mind through two specific verses, one of them being Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope and peace." I'm probably butchering that. Matthew verse where he says, "Seek the kingdom above everything else, and all else will be added onto you." These things keep me grounded, especially in my times of frustration and doubt and sadness, to know that yes, while I am going through what I'm going through right now, I can still rely on the Lord to help push me through this, to help bring me out of this situation one way or another. And more importantly, there is something to gain out of this. I'm here to learn something about this, whether it's about myself or it's about the situation itself, how to handle it better with God by my side. All of this to bring home together about God always wants us in communication with us, because he wants us to work together. He wants to always be by your side, always be communicating with him, and always being honest with him. God knows when we're not being honest, right? But he doesn't throw it in our face. He wants us to be in such a heart posture to really relinquish those strongholds that prevent us from being open with him, and just grant him entry, so that way it allows him the opportunity to hug each and every one of us like a father hugs their children, like a mother hugs their children, and just say, "I am here with you. I understand what you're going through, and trust me, everything is going to work out. There's a purpose behind your pain. Don't worry about what's happening or how tomorrow is going to happen or what may have happened in the past. There is something to gain out of this. There is growth through everything that's happening, and it's to just prepare and just continue to set course for the plans I have for you." So I encourage every single person that's watching this video, whether or not you're going through something, whether or not you're having a hard time opening up to the Lord, to just really start bit by bit, day by day, to tell something to the Lord that you're disappointed in, or something that you're not sure if you really fully trust him. And I promise you that there is going to be so much more to gain from this. And eventually you'll be at a state of peace, knowing that, hey, I recognize now why the Lord was having me in this place, why I was going through what I was going through. And ultimately, I feel much better now. And I'm allowing the Lord to guide me through my struggles and to help me to overcome my pain, my grief, my suffering, and my worries and doubts. So thank you guys so much for bearing with me in the snow and whatnot. It actually didn't end up being too bad. But, again, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that the rest of the week goes well for you, and that you keep this video in mind, as well as the other ones I've done in the past. And we'll see you on the next one. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye. To basically give us a hug like he hugs all of his kids. Wow, I'm butchering that. Okay.